This video will cover the Autovent 3000 transport ventilator. This is a time-cycled, constant flow, gas-powered ventilator. It's offered in a couple of different models. There is a 1.5 version and a 2 version. That number refers to the inspiratory time that would be selected on the inspiratory time selection. I'm going to go over these models. Generally, they're exactly the same except for a couple different factors. Like I said, inspiratory time and the maximum breaths per minute. What I'd like to do first is go over the various sections, and obviously the most important part of the Autovent 3000 is the control module. This is what's going to control the timing, the length of the breaths, and so on. It's a pretty simple unit. It has 3 different knobs on it, color-coded. The most important is the adult-child inspiratory time. On the 1.5 second version, you're going to have a selection of adult or child. The adult refers to a 1.5 second inspiratory time. The child refers to a 0.75 second inspiratory time. Aside from that, you're going to see the breaths per minute knob. The breaths per minute is adjustable on the 1.5 version from 0 all the way up to, if you read the orange numbers, 28 breaths per minute. And then tidal volume on all models is 200 to 1200 milliliters of tidal volume. Now you'll notice here orange and white marks. We'll get into this a little bit later, but obviously of orange child setting and adult white setting, you use the white or orange marks depending on whether or not you're using the child or adult inspiratory time to set the values. We'll come back to that. The second thing I'd like to talk about in your assembly is the demand valve module. Now these work together, they come separately, but they need to be attached together to use the unit properly. Also in your kit, you will find a 12-inch reusable circuit and a reusable valve. We'll get into this in a little bit. This is for if you want to use the reusable circuit instead of putting the demand valve assembly directly onto the patient's airway. Now, as far as assembly goes, it's a very simple unit, very simple to assemble. You'll notice on the right-hand side of the unit there are 2 fittings. Those 2 fittings line up with the 2 fittings of the demand valve unit, and you can't get them backwards. One is a simple DISS connection, and you will screw it on as such. The other one is a male fitting going into a female fitting on the unit, and you tighten both of those, and that is the complete assembly. Make sure they're both tight. On the other side of the unit, you'll see your inlet for oxygen. This is a completely pneumatic ventilator. It uses 100% oxygen. And so you will hook up a standard oxygen hose. It's a standard DISS fitting on this end again. Attach the unit completely to the hose. And then you're going to hook the end of your hose to any standard oxygen regulator or 50 psi source that has a DISS fitting. I can show you that here. Right here we're using an LSP regulator. And again, you're going to attach to the unit first, then to the oxygen source with the valve off, and you will then slowly open your valve to deliver pressure to the unit. Now, moving back to the unit itself, I've set this to 0 breaths per minute. The lowest setting on the breaths per minute is 0. This unit can offer breaths to a non-breathing patient. If a patient requires a breath, it will deliver oxygen flow to the rate at which it is demanded at 0 breaths per minute, or at any rate thereof in between breaths. What I'd like to talk about is how this unit is set. I'm going to use a test lung here to simulate the patient's back pressure on the unit. But again, when you're getting this, you're really just going to use it to test, and you're using it on a real patient. So the first thing you're going to do is decide whether you're going to be treating a child or adult patient. Again, there's a 1.5 and a 2.0 version. Depending on which unit you have, it's either going to deliver 1.5 for adult and 0.75 for child, or for the 2-second version, it'll deliver 2 seconds for an adult and 1 second for a child. But in any case, you set the adult or child setting. Let's set to an adult. And then the second thing you're going to do is set your tidal volume. Now your tidal volume ranges from 200 with a child all the way up to 1200, and you'll see in white numbers on the adult. So on an adult setting, you have a choice of anywhere between 600 and 1200. And for now, let's set it right at 600. And now you're going to set your breaths per minute. You'll note when you set your breaths per minute, I'm going to set it to 10 using the white numbers, and it'll start to ventilate. It's now ventilating at 10 breaths per minute at 600 milliliters of tidal volume. It's very simple to set, and once you know the orange and white color coding, again, it's quite simple. You dial in the breaths per minute using the orange or white numbers, and you dial in the tidal volume using the orange or white numbers. Now, what I'd like to do is show you, again, when you're checking this unit out, you're setting it up, you're making sure it cycles. The next thing you're going to want to do is occlude the patient delivery port. And what you've seen there is the high airway pressure alarm. The high airway pressure alarm is there to basically as a pop-off to prevent the unit from overpressurizing the lungs. And the pressure on this is set at right about 55 centimeters of water. Obviously at 60 centimeters of water is where one can cause damage in the lungs. So plus or minus 5, 50 centimeters of water is going to give you an audible alarm, a visual pop-up, and it's going to push the gas out the side rather than putting it into the patient's airway. So make sure that's always working. And then, like I said, you're pretty much ready to ventilate according to whatever parameters you have set forth in your facility. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this reusable circuit that's offered with the unit. The reusable circuit is there because obviously this demand valve has a little bit of weight to it. If you're using it, if you have an intubated patient, you probably don't want to have this much weight bouncing around in the airway. So we offer this reusable circuit, which can go in line, and that way you can set the unit off to the side of the patient and have a much lighter plastic unit that's going to sit on the airway, less chance of dislodging it. Now, one of the things I want to point out is this is what comes standard with the unit. We offer different circuit configurations in the disposable category. L599-010 is a simple 12-inch circuit, the disposable version of this. We also offer L599-130, which offers you a 3-foot version of the circuit. It operates the same way. You can hook this up to the patient or hook this up to the demand valve. This then goes on to the patient end. You'll see here, this is the patient end, this is the expiratory port. And you'll notice there's a one-way valve in both of these. The one-way valve keeps a closed system until you get to the patient end. And that means whatever is delivered at this end, 99% of that is getting delivered here. So if you set 600 milliliters of tidal volume, it's delivering 600 milliliters of tidal volume here because there are 2 valves in line. It moves it through in a closed system. Now, the expiratory port can fit a PEEP valve. So this does offer external PEEP on this unit, and it can be set from a standard PEEP valve 5 to 20 centimeters of water. But basically that is kind of covers the setup and use of the ventilator. Again, you're going to use this per your medical director's guidelines as far as settings, but the setup and use is simple. Again, to discontinue use, you can set this to 0 breaths per minute. Make sure you turn your oxygen supply off first. Then you can relieve the pressure and disconnect the unit whenever you need to. Again, on this side, these can be left permanently connected, but should you decide to disconnect them, they're unique. They can only be hooked up one way. That kind of concludes the setup and use of the Autovent 3000. Thanks.